Good afternoon, sir.
Mate, look at me, amateurishly in my car, where I have this insane setup of professional podcast in my office. But sadly, my wife's in hospital, so I'm running between places. So I apologize.
I am utterly grateful you're joining us, Jason. And probably most importantly and firstly, is everything okay? Is your wife okay?
Bless. We got a little burst appendix situation there. So,
Right.
and that then has had complications. So it's been a week in hospital, and I don't have an end date there. But hey, spirits are up. It's nil by mouth. So the hard thing for me is I love to eat 24/7. So I have to just go outside the room to eat. So that's hard. It's hard when you're not eating and your husband loves to eat.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I've noticed you've been doing on a lot of your social medias messages from hospital, visiting someone very special in hospital, and stories about being called doctors and the amazing nurses and various bits and bobs. So,
yeah, no, yeah. Well, I'm always very careful what I say, but my golly gosh, it's quite the eye opener. You just start this. It puts everything in perspective. Hospitals. It's like, there was all this shit I was worried about. Now it's like, wait a minute. Like, turns out, no. Let's forget about that altogether. Yeah.
Well, broadcasting from the car is a bit of a recurring theme on this. The lovely Polly Gillespie, she sat by the Wellington waterfront and did a show with me from her car. And I have to say that for the smaller budget production houses that I've worked with, often when you got to record voiceover, doing it in the car is a very good place to do it because of all the curves, and they absorbs the sound quite nicely. So it's quite a nice little audio booth as well.
I'd like to romance you with the idea that I'm at a waterfront. Do you know what? I've driven along a really busy road in a part of town that I don't know where I am. I've pulled into, and I kid you not, I've pulled into a cul-de-sac of retirement villages. I think in front of me there might be a sign that says residents parking only. I don't know. So at some stage we may be asked to move. I can't promise you that's not going to happen.
Would it be inappropriate for me to make a joke about, is that where you find your audience now, in the retirement villages? Saying you've been doing this for so long, Jace?
My two favorite audiences, young people and old people. You people in the middle, I could care less about, honestly. Seriously.
I'm hardly in the middle anymore, Jason. We're basically the same age. Hey, look, thanks for coming, man. It's been, I know I've probably been nagging you a bit over the last wee while. I don't know if you've seen messages or not, but I'm aware that you people who are busier than I have lives going on and stuff, and us little podcasters sitting in the background going, one day we'll connect, and I'll be able to tell Jason that one story I've got about Jason Gunn, which he doesn't know about, but I've got one, and I can tell it to him when I get to talk to him. And I was at high school in the late 80s. So we went right through that. I was at a boarding school as well, actually. So we would do that after school television thing when we came in. So it's a bit of a thrill. In fact, I had Ollie Olsen on the podcast maybe a year or so ago. So
bless him.
We're going. I'm going through everybody. One day it'll be We'll have everybody. What was her name? Fiona, who was on 345 Live?
Fiona Anderson. There was Fiona Anderson. There was Fenella Barfield was on. Fenella was on 345 Live. Yes. Fiona was the Bugs Bunny show.
Right. Yeah. So we'll keep on going. So that's my generation. So thanks for being here, man. It's my pleasure. It's just a lot of fun. I guess you've got such a career. I was looking through some information about you today. All of it good. And I just thought, someone's been doing this for a long time when they've made whole television shows you haven't really heard of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess. Yes.
It's like you've been doing this for so long and done so many things. I'm like, what's this? You're back in the room. I used to love Little Britain, and there was that comment about, and you're back in the room. And I went and had a look at it on YouTube, and it's like, this looks hilarious, and I'm going to try and find some clips and check it out. So you've been part of my life since I was, I guess, for 13 or 14 or 15, and it's lovely to finally say hello and g'day.
Oh, mate, thank you. Well, yeah, and hey, there's been some shows and then there's been some shows. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong. But I am just so grateful that I got to do it when I did it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like. It's a different world now, isn't it? Everyone's got a camera, so everyone thinks they're a broadcaster. I'm not being bitchy when I say that, but let's just say me and the word influencer don't really get along, because what exactly are you? What are you? Yeah. What are you? Yeah. I see you getting free stuff, but you're not giving it away.
Yeah.
I don't get that's not what we got taught making television. But you got stuff, but it wasn't yours. Maybe you might get something. The idea was people would give it to you to give away. That's because the term, if you didn't give it away, the term was you looked arsey.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's happened, but that's become okay. So I don't get why anyone would want to give somebody something. I don't get, and then I don't anyway. So hey, I'm from that old school.
Yeah, but the most successful guys today are still kind of doing that. I resonate with what you're saying. I remember Oprah Winfrey telling a story about how when she was a newsreader, she was shocked because she did a giveaway of $30,000 or something. It was more than she earned in a whole year. And I think about that as you're saying it, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. Although then I go, but hang on, like I'm sure you have heard of him if you don't know him. It's a guy called Mr. Beast on the internet, who is like the most successful, and his philosophy is, the first check he ever got given by a company, he gave it away immediately and made content with the giveaway. And he continues to do that, which is why he has quite literally 100 million subscribers and does it like nobody else. So it's interesting that the ones that are doing it the old way are maybe also the ones who are most successful and have most longevity. Maybe.
Well, what I don't get is, like, we're not idiots. No, some of us are, but we're not idiots. So if I see you and your scented candles and going, oh my God, shout out to Sally's scented candles, then the next day I'm like, oh my God, this makeup. It's like every day there is something. So I can instantly see that you don't really have any great connection with these people. There's no heart in your speak. So it's like, what do you do? It's like, so that, and I'm all about heart. So I guess that's my problem with these people.
It's also that idea of what you're putting out there. Like I watch some online videos with my kids, and we watch a particular online gamer who plays Fortnite and some other games, and he's got a video about him going out and buying a Lamborghini. And I just thought, you're basically saying to all these kids all around the world who are watching you, thanks for, and he actually is literally saying thanks for it. And I harken back, Jace, to what my dad taught me once. My dad was in the insurance game. Insurance guys made good money. People in Australia in the insurance game made better money. And he told me the story about a contact he had in Australia who had enough money to go out and get the flashiest BMW he wanted. But he actively didn't want to drive down the street, having his customers see him going, why the hell are you driving that? I've got a beat up old Hilux or something. So what he did was he bought the top end Commodore, which kind of is almost, I mean, other than the badge, it's got all the bells and whistles, but he didn't look like an asshole driving around on other people's money.
Yeah, no, I think, and I understand. Yeah, it's that thing that some of us think, the car maketh the man or woman or whatever. But it's like, we're done, does it? But we like to think that certain things, and don't worry on the small little things that I've ever bought that I thought, ooh, there's that drop of dopamine, and we think, wow, this is great, and then, maybe an hour later, it's like, oh, what else? What else could I say for? And I think some of us are built with that filter. That's like, wait a minute, could this look arsey? And then there's this generation of people like, who cares? Yeah. It's like, and I guess I have one word for that to describe, and that will always for me be temporary. There's no longevity in that. It's like people who I've seen do things that I think are just like inappropriate or just behave arsey. Yeah. They never last. They never do. So I think if you want to play the long game, even today, if you want to play the long game, there are certain rules you need to abide to. It can all look very flash and nice, but what you really want is you want it to last a long time, right? And that's why I come back to stuff like speaking from the heart, being kind. It sounds all very boring and old school, but I'm telling you what, now more than ever, it's what we need, right? Now more than ever. Like I used to be that guy in the afternoon, which I just loved, for children of all ages watching. just who would be there no matter what. I'd be there going, hey, how you doing? How's your day been? If it has not been good, well, let's try and make it good. It's like as adults now, we kind of need the same thing, right? That companionship and that certainty that someone's going to be there for me to ask me how I am and listen and actually give a damn. There's not a lot of that. We've never had more content. Hello Netflix, hello Hulu, hello Apple, hello Amazon. But it's just stuff to watch. You know, there's not a lot of connection going on. So if I was giving advice to anyone who wanted to get in any sort of media game on any platform, I just steer in the way of connecting with people, because that's what people will stay for.
Yeah. And so, and saying all of that, Jason, how are you? How's life at the moment? How are you doing? Obviously, you've got a wife in the hospital, but, you know, I've seen headlines of you in the last few years. There was an incident with a wheelie bin in Queenstown, I think, and there was an incident with a cardiac situation. So, and how are you doing?
Let's call it a heart attack. Let's call it a heart attack. It was a good-sized heart attack too. I'm all good. I was in radio at the time. Wasn't really loving it, to be honest. I felt like I was doing okay. I was telling okay stories. It was all a bit like, it was all a bit too fly by the seat of your pants for my liking. It's like, well, hey, I love improv. I literally did improv for years and years, but I like there to be some planning, like some structure, and it just got a bit too, nah. And I just grew up on watching a lot of old school British television where it was all such a practiced art form, you know. So a combination of improv and practice is what I love. Right. And I wasn't getting that there. Had a heart attack. That's a sign something's not right.
Yeah.
And my old mate, Phil Kogan, who he was making Spot On when I was making Son of a Gun Show.
Yep.
And yes, he went on to win many Emmys and I did not. But he rang me after the heart attack and said, hey, mate, why don't you do that thing that we've talked about for years where you go and teach people how to speak and how to connect and communicate? I mean, yeah, I've talked about that for a while. So I set up Easily Said, and I bloody love it, mate. I love it. I mean, it started out with me being, I can help you learn how to speak better. And since then, it's become like, well, actually, what I'm going to give you is permission to really speak from the heart. Find your story, tell your story, connect. And in a business, it might be the CEO, the person on the front desk. And a lot of people just haven't been taught how to tell a story. And of course, what haven't they been taught to do? How to talk on camera. What are we all doing? We're all talking on camera. So, you know, COVID actually was very kind for me. And so I set up this, you know, Easily Said, and it's just been the best thing I've ever done. I feel like I'm making a difference for people.
It is funny how COVID has impacted different people in different ways. I mean, me, for example, I was quite ardent about, and people can look, they can see, if you're listening, you're not going to see it, but for people who are watching, you can see there's the Easily Said website, easilysaid.co.nz. I'll get back to my story because I did want to know, maybe you could explain to me, you have a testimony on there from someone who is the Chief Experience Officer. I'm like, what the heck is a Chief Experience Officer? It sounds like, what was her name? Julie on the Love Boat. Would she be called the Chief Experience Officer?
What was she? Now, she
looked after the games and stuff.
Was she deck officer or something? No, she was there. Yeah, that's Tracy. I believe that is Tracy. Who, you know, I think what people are doing there is they're moving away. She's Chief Experience Officer at Yellow, and what she's moved away from is this whole, you know, CEO. What does that mean? Oh, it can mean a bit, you know, it's all executives and it's all. And she is such a person of the people, like just extraordinary. And her job is all about creating this incredible culture. So I think it's a bit tongue-in-cheek. She's taken CEO and said, yeah, you know what? But I'm more about creating an amazing experience with people than anything. And she is amazing at that.
I was going to say the Zoom thing. I was quite ardent in my belief when I was starting this podcast off that I'd only do face-to-face podcasts. Only do face-to-face. We'll do them in studio, you know. Yeah. In fact, I bought up Mr. Ollie Olsen's. I brought it up, and you can see if I bring that up. I'm sitting in my studio there down here in Dunedin.
Look at him.
I was quite ardent about this idea of only being, and then COVID kicked in, of course, and I had, and that all went out the window. And since then, what are we at? About 240 episodes. That means we're probably approaching 180 over Zoom or over
Wow.
the thing, and 75 in person. So now it's completely flipped. And the beautiful thing about it is probably 1 in 3 of my podcasts now are an international podcast. Don't have to be in person for that, because everyone can do it, and everyone can find 10 minutes, well, an hour in the car, or half an hour. It's an easier thing, rather than having to first have someone in Dunedin. That's the first problem. Second thing, having time to come to the studio. That's the second problem. Well, this works. It works.
It does, and it's also acceptable. Like years ago, on television, you'd go, well, hang on a minute, what sort of setup? I mean, Jason's in the car with his phone. I mean, he hasn't got a microphone. Lighting-wise, it's all up the wires. What's going? Well, now it's become a part of our everyday life. So we are Zooming professionally and personally. We're FaceTiming. We're doing everything, right? So people aren't offended by the so-called cheapness or amateur style. It's like, it's actually very real. And of course, I think more than ever, I see a lot of people who end up being that person, all the gear, no idea. And I always say to people when they say, hey, what gear do I need, Jace? I go, well, let's just park that bus and talk about what you're going to say and how you're going to say it. And then, yes, I can talk you into spending tens of thousands of dollars, and good luck to you. But I've also seen people with some incredible cameras who are just shit to listen to. So you need to get that balance right.
I think it's actually ironically started without knowing in about 2015, when groups like CNN started to take people on Skype. As soon as they started to take people on Skype, they kind of gave us broadcasters permission to not have a $30,000 microphone in the studios. Because if CNN's doing it and broadcasting it to the fucking world, then actually, Danny Vert can speak to Hamilton. It's actually not a problem.
That's exactly. And like I say, what it does is, look, I've spoken to many people, and I can think of over the years, what's really interesting, when I talk to, say, I won't name names, but you might have a well-known All Black, and if you bring them into a studio or you put them into a set, they change. They're not them. They go into automatic pilot. They feel they're out of their world. It's not. So the great thing about this is, well, let's interview you in your world. You could be in your living room or your kitchen, wherever you are. So you're getting a lot more realness from people, which is what I like. And because of Zoom, they're actually spending a lot more time on camera than they ever have. So it doesn't put people off. Going to studios where there's radio and television, it's still just a little step too far for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's foreign. Yeah, you're right. Because people walk in and they see, when I started in radio, it was Kim and Corbett. So they see Jeremy Corbett and they go, holy shit, I've seen him on the telly, and I'm a bit nervous now. Whereas I'm in bare feet right now, basically, in what I got up out of bed this morning, and so is the person at the other end. I'm speaking to America, and it's them at the nighttime, and they're getting ready for bed, and the kids have already done it. It's just like, oh, here's my glass of wine, and like, here's my fridge back here with my beers in it. And it's just very different.
And I think also that they love it, because if it enables to get Jason Gunn in his car, it's like, and people are a lot more important and interesting. But if it enables to get them on the show, it's like, oh, that's cool, great. That's Jace pulled over for a chat with Pat. It's great, no problem. It's like that's real. It is that realness, and I think that's what I do love about it the most.
And hopefully, fingers crossed, like at some stage you'll get a policeman knocking on the window, and that'll make it even better broadcasting if we get some sort of actuality going on as well.
I'm looking around now and I'm like, so far so good. But move on, please, sir. Move on. Well, I'm talking about, can you not see I'm busy, officer, right now? No, that's a good point. Well, it's like I remember years ago, when I was doing breakfast radio, and I drive home and I just get so tired. So sometimes I just pull over on the side of the road and just sleep, right?
Yeah.
The problem is I just sleep and I put my seat all the way back. And twice I had a policeman come and knock on my window and go, just want to check you're all right, mate. You're all good. You're not. Yeah, I went, well, thank you very much for your concern. That's very kind. But no, I am fine. And I'm awake now. Damn it. So, I mean, you need to be careful where one does park up. That's for sure.
Yeah. Breakfast radio is a bitch. Hey, that's a killer, man. I was talking to Mark Dye the other week. I did a podcast with him, who's one of the new guys on Today. And just to hear him, I used to do overnights on ZB, so I'd see the morning guys come in, and just to hear him talking about his alarm going off at 4 a.m. and him going to bed at 8 p.m. I was just like, I mean, this is silly. Media Works and NZME, if you're listening. I was about to say you couldn't pay me enough to have those out. They probably could, but it would. I don't actually know if I could do it. Like, I don't know if physically I could do it anymore.
You know what I find is, having done a bit, when you get into it, it's fine. Doing it once in a while, horrible. When you get into a pattern, it's cool. The only thing I'd say is this, and it's taken me to the age of 53 to work out. It's like, what is success? Like what is it? And I've worked out, for me, it's quality time with my kids. That's what it is. So me having to go to bed at 9 o'clock or missing moments because Dad can't come to that. He's got to be in bed because he's got up at 4 o'clock. It's like, there's no story on the radio worth that, right? It's like, nope. Yeah. No. I get one crack at being a dad. Well, I got 4 children, but I'm get one crack at being a dad to 4 kids, and it's like, look, there is no money for that. And trust me, I've turned down some good money, and I don't say that to be like, ooh. I'm just going. It's taken me to 53 and a heart attack to realize that. Yeah, it turns out when I was in that hospital bed, my bank balance actually didn't change shit. It was like, yeah, you're still a good guy here, mate. So rethink your plan.
When that happened and you were lying in that hospital bed, beyond that, were there many changes in your life or lifestyle? Like, was there something that was just, I mean, sometimes hearts just do things that hearts do. Sometimes there are contributing factors. Have you had to change a lot in your life since then to continue on with those things that you value, i.e. seeing the kids for as long as possible?
Yeah, I spend a lot more time with him. I honestly do. I play a lot more golf, like with my son Louis, and just, I am, what would I say? So I'm a bit of a sensitive soul, so I picked the wrong career in many ways, but that's okay. So I don't like when people have a crack at you. I'm like, so I've chosen to let that get to me less. If someone's being an ass on my Facebook page, just put a block. See ya. Bye. It's not why. We don't have to discuss this.
Yeah.
You're being a complete cock. This is my page. See ya. It's like, hey, if I was being an absolute ass, I get it, but I'm just trying to have a laugh and bring some joy. So if you want to come on here and troll, not a fan of that term because I don't know why we actually give people like that labels, then you could honestly just piss off. I've got no time. Whereas I used to enter into a lot more discussions. I still have some discussions. Yeah. And the other thing, just with radio, being a bit of a perfectionist. Yeah, I did. That used to wind me up. So now I just generally find myself going, oh, hang on a minute. And if I'm getting wound up, I actually feel myself getting a bit like angry or annoyed. And I just sit back and go, Jason, we've been here before. Of course, we don't actually know what causes a heart attack per se. It's a cocktail of many things, but I'm sure stress is part of it. So what do you do? Well, after a heart attack, you just try and take out as many things as you possibly can, knowing that something will get you one day. But I think I just look at, it's not like, we all want to think it was a moment where we changed their life and never ate meat again, or never got stressed again, or never took that work again. But sadly, I can tell you it's not like that. You make lots of little changes, I think. And I just think you have more gratitude than ever. Right. Like, I'm more emotional these days because I've, from 2 or 3 minutes there, faced a potential. So you're saying this is where it ends today, right? So this could. So wait. So let me get this straight. I am lying on this bed, and you're going to look at my arteries, and I don't know. I thought I was a nice guy, good dad. Turns out that just doesn't. Who gives a shit, mate? If it's your turn to go, it's your turn to go. And when you lie there in that moment and you think about, you've got 4 kids, you've got 4 wedding speeches you want to give, you just think, gee, like, you're saying that that's all going to be taken, even if I'm a nice person or not, whatever. Even if I exercise a bit and look after myself, doesn't matter. It turns out it doesn't matter. Something can still take you. That bus could still hit you. So I think I've become more grateful of just every day. A year ago, we had our first granddaughter born, and she's been the greatest gift ever. So you get this gratitude. But just, we've got 4 kids, and our youngest son, Louis, he's a bit of a unique one. He's got what I would call wise wings. Like, I think he could out Tony Robbins. I'm not going to lie. He's just like, he was born a self-help guru. And he'll just every day just check, how you doing, Dad? How you doing, Dad? How's everything going, mate? You take care of yourself, Dad. Are you keeping your tanks filled, Dad? Like, he's always, Dad, let it go, mate. Don't you worry about that. It's like, he's just unbelievable to have a son like that. And it's like he's been here before. It sounds very deep, but honestly, some people you meet in life, you think, this is not your first time around, is it? And he is, Yeah, an old soulmate. That's exactly it. So he has taught me a lot, and he reminds me of a lot to just, let go of the shit, pick up the golf club. Let's go and have 9 holes and just have some laughs.
It's hard sometimes, eh? Like I'm in a situation where you're trying to build something new, and it's very hard sometimes to put stuff down. So I have this little room in the basement of my house, and sometimes I have to get my upstairs laptop and bring it down. I lock the door, put the key in, and then it's like I'm like, oh, I got work to do. Oh, the laptop's downstairs. Don't worry about it. Then I'll look at it tomorrow. Like making those spaces to actually stop yourself. Even with these things now, where things are coming in from all over the place. As I see one coming in literally right now about a potential new thing to do. It's like actually finding that time to go.
Yeah.
I think is really important, and it's something I try and do often. Actually, I like afternoon naps. I like afternoon naps in my big chair in the sun. If I can, I do.
Yep.
And it happens not as much as I would like it to, but it does happen.
Well, I think I've also changed a bit in terms of, yes, I used to run everywhere because I don't know, I find walking boring. But after the heart attack, you couldn't, so you walked a lot. And I thought, oh, okay, let's just pause for thought here. This is cool. I'm seeing a few more things that I'd often run past. I'd go, oh,
Nice.
okay, that's pretty cool. Maybe I'll walk a bit more. But the other thing is, this sounds very doom and gloom, but I don't walk and exercise and do things now because I just want to be like the best version, and I want longevity. Look, who knows how long you're here for, right? Touch wood. But while you are here, you might as well enjoy it. And I think that's the thing where I'm at now, having been shown something that says, hey, here's your red card, you're off, but managed to, get that back to a yellow, in fact, which was good. I now know it can go at any time. So every day I'll catch myself and go, whoa, hang on a minute here. Let's just walk. Stuff it. Let's do that. Yeah, no, I'm going to book that flight down for my daughter, come down to Christchurch and see me. She's in Auckland. Of course, why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
So I'm much more present, I think, than I've ever been. And here's my other thing, my tolerance for people who aren't, and my tolerance for anybody who's being an ass, it's diminished. It's diminished.
Oh, I think about you. I can tell you my story now, maybe.
Please.
As someone who had tolerance for a lot of people, I saw you, it would have been the early 90s. I would have been with my boys in Mission Bay in Auckland.
Okay, right.
McDonald's Mission Bay, Auckland, that downstairs entrance from McDonald's in Mission Bay in Auckland.
Know it.
You were either going in and there was a group of, lads coming out, or you were coming out and they were going in, and obviously made a big deal, made a big fuss, and they'd probably been drinking, and so they got down on their hands and knees and were bowing to you outside the door of McDonald's. And what you did, which I remember to this day and thought was hilarious, you pointed at the one who wasn't bowing down, you went, oi, down. And then he got down, and then I think you went into McDonald's, or maybe you came out, whichever way it was, but it was hilarious. And that's my Jason Gunn story that I remember.
Oh God!
And it's obviously all done in good humor and good jest.
Yes, and thank God that you see that, because
course.
angry Ian of Invercargill would say, I saw that Jason Gunn at McDonald's, and he's such an arrogant bastard. He made some kid get down and do the. Yes, honestly, look, the greatest joy and the greatest gift my job gives me is people still come up to me and go, hey, Jace, mate, where's Thingy? Or they want to, and I always, I take great joy in that, and I'm humbled by that, because people feel like they know you.
Yep.
And feel like they can come up and chat. My greatest fear is that anyone would ever think, and I mean, let's be honest, why would anyone think they couldn't come up and chat with me? I've met real celebrities that I've been too scared to chat to. I get very starstruck by All Blacks and cricketers and different people, and I'm like, oh, hey, g'day, mate. And if they talk back to me and go, oh, g'day, Jason, I'm like, oh my God, that is going to sit with me for a couple of weeks. That I cannot believe they knew my name, and I'm like this. So I've always thought this: what would it be like for someone to go to someone and say hi, and get more than a g'day? And so I've always thought, wow, I don't know why you want to talk with me, but if you do, it's like, oh my God, of course, hi, let's make this a moment. And that's why now, interestingly enough, I use the word moment in my job at Easily Said. I just say all life is about, when you talk on camera, when you talk on stage, all it's about is trying to create a moment where you make me feel something. Otherwise, I say to people, just send me an email, mate. I don't need to hear you talk. If it's just going to be you reading facts and figures, send me the facts and figures as an email. P.S. I will delete it. But, make me feel something. Create a moment. Because now more than ever, that's what we need, right? We need to create moments with each other.
As you were saying, I jotted this down because I can relate to the being like a bit starstruck. And actually, even though I mentioned his name, Jeremy Corbett was the guy who realized, oh my goodness, because I was working in mid-dawn at More FM and he walked in and I was like, fuck me, that's Jeremy Corbett. And what I realized it was because he was doing and had done what I wanted to do. So as you were just talking then, I wrote down, we get starstruck, especially if you're working sort of in the biz, by seeing people who do something you can't do, i.e. the All Black, seeing people who are doing what you want to do, or seeing people who have that's pretty much what it is, want to do or doing what you want to do. Yeah. So the people who are like, so if you're a muso and Ed Sheeran walks in, to be like, whoa, but if it was, if it wasn't All Black, maybe it wouldn't be such a big deal because it's not what you want to do, or you know what I mean? So I wonder if all of us
and I'll add a
level.
third one to that. I'll add a third one. Is I also get starstruck by people who at a big level are doing something and it's the way that they're doing it. Yeah. Like, it's like, wow, I'm not saying what you do is cool, but I've seen the way. For me, it's like, I always say to people, who gives a shit how famous you are? It's small, big. It's not about that. My thing I love is, what are you doing with the superpower that is fame? What good are you doing with that? Who are you helping? Who are you inspiring? Who are you stopping to chat to? Who are you asking, how are you doing? And when I see people with some, and I see a lot of people, some temporary fame, just out there, just, I don't know. And it's all about me, me, me. I go, yep. And that's why it's temporary. It breaks my heart because I think it's a gift that you could do so much with, or you could just show me your free scented candle. I'm just saying.
I'm interested. One more thing about the success thing before I drop that conversation altogether. You're talking about success and what you consider success to be, and you're talking about it from a personal point of view. I'm really interested. I want to show you a clip of Ollie Olsen. Actually, that's why I had it ready to go, sort of thing there. Because I'm also interested in what you consider to be success when it comes to business. I mean, what we do is easily said, radio, television, producing, whatever, it's a business. So there's got to be a metric or something for success.
Yes.
Now, I'm not putting words into Ollie's mouth here, but I wanted to play you a little 90 seconds of our conversation when he talked about basically how one person, kind of normalized speaking Māori on television. And before him, it wasn't there. And I would guess, and I am guessing because he doesn't use these words, that if you asked him, was that a success in your career? He'd say, absolutely. Let me play it for you. You have a listen to the legend.
Okay.
And see what he's got to say.
About 2 or 3 months prior to my arriving on television, that Nola Glavish lost a job in the telephone exchange for saying kia ora.
Oh, wow.
So the idea of Māori language on television was just not acceptable. I said, could I do greetings and farewells in Te Reo Māori? And my producer at the time says, no, we can't do it all. And I said, why? Why not? And he said, because if we do it for you, we're going to do it for the other minority groups.
Right.
And I thought, well, that's a cop out. And as soon as I only thought that, so straight away I said the incoming. So if I speak German, Italian, French, Samoan, and the different languages that are in New Zealand, I can include Māori. And he said, oh, shit. Didn't think of that. So we had to ring Hal Weston, who was the head of children's programming at the time.
Ah, yes.
And Hal rang me and said, what's this thing about you wanting to talk to her, Mara? And I said, well, Hal, I've just had a conversation with Ian. And he said, if he lets me speak Te Ao Māori, you'll have to consider the other minority groups. And he said, well, that's why I'm ringing you, Ollie, because we can't deny you that because of we've never been asked that question before.
They've never been asked. Yeah, there you go. So that's and I just, I wanted to cue that up because I like being able to sort of acknowledge people who have gone before us, people who are standing on the shoulders of giants. And you are someone who's certainly the position in that show, I think there was a couple of people between you guys, but came on the back of Ollie, and I definitely wanted to play a bit. But it just resonated to me about what he also brought to that role, that it made me think, what has Jace done? What has Jace been proud of? What are your success metrics for your broadcasting career, what you've done and what you are sort of proudest of when it comes to what you've done in your business work, so to speak?
Yeah, it's interesting. You know what? I guess I'd like to think, and trust me, I can't compare to that. Like, I mean, because don't forget also, as well as multi-language, as well as multi-language, sign language as well. Ollie brought that as well. Like, Ollie was the master. Like we knew more than keep cool till after school, didn't we? Like we knew a few things. And it's hard to imagine that it was only that what not a long time ago that, you know, that what he was talking about was going on. And you know, so I mean, we forget what a pioneer he was, and he was a real friend in the afternoon. And I think, what am I most proud of? I always thought I've got on to make lots of different shows, but I'll always think children's television is prime time. I just think it is. You know, I used to try and make the Son of a Gun show and after school, particularly the Son of a Gun show. I'd think about who's that one kid who's come home from school and there's no one there. There's no one home, and they'd have a good day or a bad day, and no one's there to let them in. So mum and dad are working, or there isn't a mum or there isn't a dad, but there is a Jason and there is a thingy. And I can be that person in the afternoon to go, hey, how you doing? How are you doing? How was it? How was it at that school? If it was not good, tomorrow it may be. And I just wanted to be that person, just that reassuring person, you know, and I just wanted to be, I guess, things I think about are, I wanted to be reassuring. I wanted to be kind, you know, that's, and I guess I wanted to be like a companion. That's, and I think sort of going through all that, and I guess I'd also throw in authenticity as well. I just wanted to be me. And I guess the thing is, for me, what I'd be proud of is that I've clung on to that. You know, I can say it. I don't think I've been affected. Because I can't stand bullshit. I can't think of a time in my life where I've been attracted to any other thing which might make me something different, like the glitz and the glam and the money. If it meant changing who I was, I just was never interested. It's like, I just want to be Jace. And as long as that's a thing, well, that's cool. It would be, it would be different nowadays. I think that would be a lot different. But I got to try different shows and different things. And if it was Dancing with the Stars or Wheel of Fortune or whatever the show, it's like, you know, I'm proud of myself that I just was still me. You didn't go, oh, okay, here's the real Jason. It's like, no, you always saw the real Jason. That's just Jason. And if you meet me on the street, it's like, that's him again. He's just like, he's off the, that's just Jason. So I guess I'm proud of that.
Yeah, I think that's what I saw in Mission Bay. You know, it's the same. It's the same person. I think that's what it was. You know, it was a jape that we would have seen on a television program that you were hosting as well. Speaking of that, though, because you're still, I don't know if you still are involved, but you have been involved up until very recently, if you're not now, at producing What Now. Does your company still produce What Now?
Yes. Okay. So my wife and I own Whitebait Media. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So you were involved with presenting kids television in the 80s. Okay. And you're still involved with it 4 decades later, 3.5 to 4 decades later. What's changed in what your content you're putting out for a 12-year-old kid coming home by themselves today versus the 12-year-old kid on is it Saturday or Sunday mornings? What now these days?
Yes, Sunday. Yeah.
Sunday morning, getting up and watching it by themselves. What's changed behind the cameras, behind the scenes when it comes to programming?
Well, I guess the thing is nowadays it's that, you know, it's options, isn't it? I mean, what you had when you watched the Son of a Gun show, you had the Son of a Gun show and the Young and the Restless. And if I couldn't win that battle, I shouldn't be in television. Where now it's like, okay, cool. Wow. There's just so much out there, which is why, though, what hasn't changed massively is those things: authenticity, kindness, companionship. That hasn't changed. So I'm forever telling our presenters, guys, particularly like during COVID, you know, I was like, just be reassuring. Just be, hey, how you doing? Just be that person. That has not changed in 30 to 40 years. Is I am here. It's all good. We've got this. I'm here today. I'm here next week. I don't care if it's going to be in this studio or in my bedroom where the show was done for quite a while. The presenters were in their own houses. We will go out of our way to be here for you. So that hasn't changed. What has changed is the amount of screens that kids will watch. And, of course, be watching multiple screens at one time. They're on their phone with their iPad on something while What Now's on. So it is changing. And that's what alarms me about radio, because I think it's missing, is everything is, all the big shows are networked now. We were networked. And it's like, what a freaking cop-out. It's like, I know it's cheaper. We can get Jason Gunn and we'll put him in 24 centres. Brilliant. Yeah, that's cool. But does he live in Christchurch? Does he love the Crusaders? Yeah. So when the Crusaders play the Blues, does he get to say, go the Crusaders? No, because there's people who love the Blues listening, so we can't say that. It's like, so if something's going down in Auckland, is Jason the best person to talk about it? Not really, no. See, I believe that local is the key to everything. You know, I'm less into broadcasting and more into sort of this, almost this, are they calling it nanocasting? It's like, try and hit smaller markets. Yeah. Let there be more of us hitting specific markets. It's really difficult now to make everyone feel okay. I mean, there is a skill set that I guess I've learned over the years where I like to think I can talk to everyone, but make everyone feel like I'm only talking to them. I always avoid words like, hey, you guys, how are you all doing? It's like, no, it's just you and me. Yeah, it's got to be one-on-one, right? They've got to feel like he's only talking to me. That's what you should be aiming for. But but I think two things. Local is the secret to everything going forward. And if that means you've got to make your show 4 times for 4 different markets, good on you. It says you really care, doesn't it? The other thing is just that companionship. That's more powerful than anything. Nothing. Reassurance is the word that I tell everyone. Tell me, remind me of what my problem is and remind me of how you can help me through it. That's all I need to know.
Yeah, and I've experienced that. I was a mid-dawn ZB host for quite a long time, and right through the Christchurch earthquakes, and that's the companionship. It's the people who couldn't sleep at night.
Totally.
And we were broadcasting on all the whatever NZME was called at the time, TRN, I think, all of their networks in Christchurch and around the country for quite a long time, especially at night time, primarily to give people access and give us a chance to sort of communicate with them and actually keep them company. And I think that's I do think, though, when you're talking about the Crusaders example, I think programmers, respectfully to them, have it wrong. And I think they've got it wrong for a long time. Because I think what I've watched, and I used to talk about this a lot in the American television market, the CBS show, the David Letterman show, would have on someone from HBO, or they'd have on someone from CBS, or they'd have on someone from, so they didn't have that kind of, got to make sure we keep everyone safe market. And I actually think someone talking to the audience, because you could argue, it's harder, but you could argue that you could have a local New Zealand show. Actually having someone go the Crusaders, that actually invites interaction from the audience to go, the Crusaders suck. So I think people being so precious about it, primarily management, because it's that not wanting to take a risk to offend anyone, so we'll do nothing, is actually hampering content as well.
I'll give an example, right? So you look at the news. Why is the news based in Auckland? Because I'm going to tell you, it reeks of it. It reeks, like it's got a certainness about it that I go, well, that's not made in Dunedin, is it? And here's my other thing. So when I always get the levels wrong, by the way, so I can never work out if 1 is 4 or 4 is 1. But basically, when we were all allowed out and Auckland wasn't, we had to watch the news and all their news shows with them all sitting separately doing. The rest of us didn't. So why did we have to watch that? That wasn't my world. I feel for you, but it ain't how I'm living. So my thing is, shouldn't the news in 2022 have at least minimum 4 anchors? Christchurch, Wellington, Auckland, and Dunedin. That's what a news show should look like.
Or at least something like top half, at least, at the very least. You have your nationwide half hour, then your local.
I don't need every news show coming out of Auckland because A, all roads don't lead to Auckland, sorry. And B, it's like not everything happens there. It should be representative. It's like you can have a reporter here and here and here and here and take turns telling me stories. I just thought during COVID it just was a classic example where it just at times it didn't reflect where I was at. Hey, if you're a good broadcaster, I was in Christchurch for the earthquakes. 7 floors up. I was in Christchurch 2 minutes from that horrible mosque attack. So if I'm a good broadcaster, I should be able to tell you what's going on with enough empathy and vulnerability that you feel, God damn, I feel like I'm there, I'm around the corner. That's what a good broadcaster can do. I'm not sure they're teaching that as much as they used to, just saying. You know, because I loved the way that in the earthquake, for example, during that time, people from outside, you know, I was on radio at the time, and, you know, you just invited people in. It's okay if you feel helpless out there. Just know that your guidance and your kindness and you're asking how we are, that's the best mental health help you could ever give us. So that was a great example of a nation really coming together. And I guess I was able to help people explain to them what it was like to be a part of that. You know, I just think some of that localness is sadly missing.
If I was running a radio network, and I'm going to talk specifically of radio because that's more my MO than television, and you've said that it didn't really float your boat, what you were doing on whichever it was, the Hits or More FM or whatever you're doing, as much as it could have been. If someone came to you, a little bit like what they've done at Today FM, and with a blank sheet and went, whatever you want, Jace, however long you want to do a show, however you want to run it, we will do it. What would you want to do? And just remember, I'm sure all the programmers will hear this, and you might get emails later in the week. But in seriousness, how would you do radio? You know, as how would you do JCFM? What would it sound like and feel like?
Well, for starters, I wouldn't be arrogant enough to base myself in one place, because that's not right. There's that. So, and it couldn't all be about me. I'd need to find the people I've always wanted to work with and go, A, B, C, D, E. Let's have some conversations. P.S. We can't all be in the same room, because that's just like, and P.S. we don't need to be. It's called Zoom. It's called radio. We don't need to anymore. As well as that, the Gunns recently, the family took a road trip in a camper van, right? And I loved it because we just went down the South Island of New Zealand, the west coast of the South Island of New Zealand. No 2 days were the same. I've never heard more amazing stories in my life from real New Zealanders. I stopped for a coffee in a place called Bruce Bay, where the woman said, "No one stops for coffee here." I went, "Well, that's a shame." And I heard her story about the muffins she makes every morning that don't get sold, but I bought some anyway. And what I loved is I thought that's what radio needs to be. Get out there, meet the people. Thing I love about New Zealand, we are a country of amazing storytellers. And we're not out there doing it, you know? And also what I would really want it to be, TV1 has that little slice called Good Sorts. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, it's kind of works for me. I once heard this thing once, that the news is a show where someone says good evening and then spends 60 minutes telling you why in fact it's not a good evening. So my thing would be, I'm not being all cheesy here. There's so much good going on in the world right now. You know, how much of the bad shit do I actually need to know? I'm not being naive, but if you give it to me and you tell me all this shit and you put a Mike Hosking twist on it, or that sort of ZB twist, it's like, well, I dare you to ask yourself, but you won't, because you're trying to be a little bit, a bit edgy, aren't you? I dare you to ask, how does me telling you this affect you? Does it keep you awake at night? Does it make you worry? In which case, piss off. What good does that do, people? I don't understand. It's like, do I need to know this? And if I do, can you tell it to me in a way that's like, okay, I'm better informed. I have an understanding of it. Or I could just be an ass and try and pick holes in people. It's like, it's not really helping. So I have many questions of many people. I'd like to get people on. I'd like to, kill them with kindness. Certainly, there's enough ugly shit out there, so I'd want to keep it good. I'm not going to get all preachy on it. Don't get me wrong. There's some other questions that need to be asked. There'd be plenty of lightness, right? I mean, we've got but good storytellers, they're out there everywhere. My wife's in hospital. Every day I find someone who makes me laugh somewhere in a corridor in that hospital. Someone tells me a story and we laugh out loud. And I just want to go, if I had a camera, I'd film you now and I'd let New Zealand meet you, because they deserve to. You need to be on the television. So, long answer, sorry, to a simple question, but I guess it would involve a lot of New Zealanders. I'd like to be the enabler. I'd like to bring people from around New Zealand onto the show, almost a talent quest, but the talent is their stories.
So when you get So when you get the call from all these programmers offering you this exact thing, I just would like I think a 5% gratuity would be fair. I'm just putting it out there.
I think that is fair, and potentially naming rights. I think we need to throw that in there too. I just
JCFN. You mean call it JCFN?
Yeah, I honestly think. I mean, you should say to me, Jace, you need to get the Department of Conversation, and that you need to get it into every show. It has to just fall out of your mouth. So if that's, we'll do it.
The other thing I was going to say about that whole news story you just gave the analogy is they say good evening, then they tell you how it's not being good, but how they should finish it every night is, and that's how 10 New Zealanders lived. The other 4.999 million had a lovely day. You know what I mean?
That is so true, dude, isn't it? It's just like, what? Hang on a minute. Just like, yeah, I get it. There's shit going on, and we need to hear about it. Well, not all of it, but some of it we do. But where is the balance? I just look at what's, and it's got lazy even. It's just, you know, my favorite thing about news now is, and I'm sorry to harp on, but you've got me started, is they'll do something like, something happened at the Beehive at lunchtime. So someone in the studio goes, earlier today at the Beehive, drama unfolded as et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Jason Gunn is there now. Jason, a difficult time. Cut to Jason. That's right, Simon. Earlier today, well, because you can see nothing's actually happening behind me, right? Nothing's happening behind me now. No. Earlier today, there were scuffles, there were dramas, and I was there to capture it. Okay, then we roll down the footage of it happening. Then back to Jason on the steps. As you can see, drama earlier today, but again, still nothing behind me. Back to you, Simon. And it's like, what did that cost us? Like, what? Like, I'm all about people. Wherever I go and I travel, I love talking to people. I love getting their stories. Locals, tell me something I don't know. Make me laugh, make me cry, make me feel grateful, make something, right? You don't have to have a heart attack to feel grateful about your life, though some of us do need that. So how could we fill people's tanks every day? That's the show I'd love to make.
You're making me think as well. What you're talking about is putting stories into the media. What's happening at the moment is the media are putting stories into the community. So, for example, and look, I know this is a very serious situation at the moment, but it appears from the media that people think that ram raids are like COVID, that everyone's going to catch it and be doing them at the same time. Like every headline at the moment is about the proliferation of ram raids and look out for the ram. And look, careful, make sure you wear your mask. You might catch a ram raid. It's like the media is putting into society the story about how serious this is. But what you're talking about is getting stories from society and giving them, amplifying them, putting them into the media, which sounds lovely.
Well, the thing is also, I'm not blind to, and trust me, you know, I mean, people are going to be very careful there because people want to align you with a political party, and I actually don't. I just currently, like, I just meet a lot of people who go, "Oh, the trouble is Jacinda." I go, "Really? Is it? Is it really? Or potentially, is it you? Maybe is it? Do you need an out? Are you just shit at what you do? But maybe this has given you a good chance to go right." And hey, and that's not every person. It's a lot of people, I've heard.
Yep.
And my thing is that we've now become this culture of, like, if in doubt, like, oh, yeah, bloody blame someone else, like the government and other people. And it's like, okay, whoa, hang on a minute. That's actually not gonna do anything. And you've got a lot of people out there who are taking people who are in neutral and putting them into the actually, great point, That's what scares me, is you got these people who are now following beliefs which are incorrect, basically because it's all about ratings and that's what they love to do, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of scary. And they're not worried about the effect this has on people. I look at my mum, she's 86. My God, I love her so much. She lives on her own. Dad passed away a few years ago. So it's like she goes to bed at night and she likes to listen to the radio. And I say, Mum, is that putting you to sleep in a good way? Oh, well, there is some conversations that come on from time to time. And I go, I don't know, really? But again, it's because I think we've stopped worrying what effect these stories have on people. And that's got to be swapped around.
Yeah, I agree. Before we leave, and I know we'll get a chance to wrap up now. It's been lovely to talk to you. I did want to talk to you about your experience with the Mandela Effect. And for people who don't know, the Mandela Effect is when a group of people share a memory that never happened. That's the Mandela Effect. I kind of, and I'm not a group of people, but the example I give for me was, I remember being a little fella, like 2, being for a trip in the South Island, coming down from Auckland, do the caravan around the South Island, and there being an incident with a prickle, and being an incident where the prickle was stuck in the foot, and I was having to be pinned down and held on a table. Now, the truth is, I don't know if I can remember that, or I don't know if I've embedded that into my brain, because I've
or
heard
maybe
that
you saw a photo or something. Yeah,
heard the story told so many times about having to hold Paddy down as a 2-year-old to get the prickle out of his foot. You probably have one of the most famous Mandela Effect issues that ever happened in New Zealand, and I can't have you, Jace, without showing a little bit of this. And of course, the Mandela. Well, let's not. I mean, like I, you know what I'm talking about with the Mandela Effect, and some people will know, but let's not quite reveal it yet as to why this is the Mandela Effect. But let's just have a look at that very famous situation where Thingy lost an arm.
Oh no, it's mine. It's got 2 wheels, a seat, and some handlebars.
That's the sort of thing. It's a sort of.
Oh, we missed the whoops. That wasn't good. Let's go back. Let's go back one.
Wheels, a seat, and some handlebars.
That's the sort of thing. It's a sort of. That's the sort of thing. It's a sort of thing.
There he goes. Anyway.
Yeah. Sort of thing you'd say.
And the conversation starts between you and Thingy. Now, for people who don't know, tell people why that's the Mandela Effect, about a group of people with a memory of something that happened that never happened.
Because people say to me all the time, and they say, hey, Jace, I remember, mate. I remember I was at home that day. What a day that was. I'll never forget that day. I was at home and I saw it. And, mate, it was shocking. I'll never forget that. I go, so are you aware? I go, mate, we were all home. I remember the day that happened. I go, you see, now that is not, because the Son of a Gun show, we got to the stage where we were making 5 shows in a day, or 3 shows and 2 shows. So it wasn't live. So all sorts of things, and trust me, all sorts of things would happen which could never play out to the nation of children. No way, my word, burn those tapes. So they could, and that's an example. When Thingy's eye pops out, you record that, we laugh. One of us probably swore at the end of that take and said, oh, well, okay, shit, what, cut, went back, reinsert eye with glue, do it again, right? But people remember it as happening. So then you say, why? Well, what happened is we got a call like about 6 months, a year later, and someone said, hey, we're making a bloopers show. That's the thing to do on TV2 at the moment. We'll make a bloopers show. Have you got any crazy bloopers? Seems to work on American television. I'm like, I don't think we've got anything. I went, hey, dude, wait. You've got that one where your eye fell out. That was kind of funny. Trust me, I believe there were funnier things, but maybe couldn't be shown. Anyway, and so we sent them that. And so that played on the blooper show. This is before the internet too. So it got a lot of following. And then Jerry Wells made Eating Media Lunch.
Yeah, brilliant show. And
in his opening titles, he included that little eye coming out in the opening titles. So it became anchored in people's mind, and people would talk about it. And then when YouTube did come out, and we got on the internet, it got huge following. This moment, 10 greatest moments. Really? 10 greatest moments in New Zealand television. It's like, I think
that never happened.
Popping out as one of them. Yeah. So, I mean, what does that say about New Zealand television? But so you're so right, mate. It's like it never actually happened. Yeah. It was a pre-recorded show. We went back and redid it. But people remember it as happening and remember the day. So often I go, hey, if you remember it, I don't want to be that guy who goes, that didn't happen. You're wrong. You just let it be. You go with that. But when they press me some more, I'm like, that didn't really happen. No.
You can make some money. I bet you $1,000 you don't remember it. I bet you $1,000. I bet well, it never showed. Hey, before we head off, we talked about you standing on the shoulders of giants. We used Ollie Olsen as an example. How do you feel about the next generation coming up after you? And I'm looking at the guys like Di Henwoods and the guys like Clint and those guys who are coming up and taking over jobs, are now hosts of jobs that are jobs you used to do and used to be involved with. And how do you think that kind of presenter stock is in New Zealand with the next generation coming up now? How do you feel about it?
Well, I have 2 thoughts on this. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I'm not ready to hand over the mantle yet. I'm not. There's life in the old gun yet. I'm oh yeah. Having said that, I'm also very lucky we don't make television like we used to. So I'm like, okay, I get that. So I've got to be careful because I lived in some glorious times making television, what I thought were. and things were just done a bit differently. I look at when we made Dancing with the Stars for those first 5 years. It was big tally stuff, like live band, live studio audience, huge set. It was, and the BBC came out and they wanted it really, really British. I love the show now. It's a lot smaller, and it just looks a lot, small. Hey, I did it for 5 years and loved it, and just it was time for Jace to stop doing that. So no hard feelings there. It's interesting, we've got this crossover now, because I think Clint does a great job. You've got now see, I'm terrible. Now you've got a few. I was actually thinking Sharon's. I think she's amazing. Like she is quite the broadcaster, just amazing. But you've got a few shows now where the radio crossover happens. Television, radio. Hey, this is coming from the television guy who did radio. So I struggled on radio because I'm more of a visual storyteller, right? So I struggled there. The only thing I would say is occasionally I see some shows pop up and I'm like, yeah. It is a different skill set altogether, I think. See, every radio show now has gone and put cameras in their studio. Why? Yeah. It's radio. It's theatre of the mind. Stop it. So you'll see, I haven't got a piece of, oh yeah, hang on. So you'll see someone and they'll go, you'll see someone, you'll go online and watch and you'll go, I've got some, I've been thinking about that. Here's the top 3 reasons that I think yada, yada, yada. Number 1, da, 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 da. Number 2, and you see it and you go, what? Is he reading that? I thought he'd just come up with that on the fly. Like, what's the go with that? I don't know why everything needs to be televised. It's taken away the magic of radio. I think it's ruined it. I used to hate, I'd say, why have we got cameras in here? And the only thing I'd also say this, and this cannot not sound like an RC ex-television presenter, it is a different skill. And I think sometimes we just go, well, if we get him to do it or her to do it, it's like, okay, you know what? It's like, that's good because then we get the whole exposure and then we can have that pop up on the television that says the answer. Well, here's a competition on tomorrow's radio show, and it's the same network. And it's like, yeah, I get what you're doing there, but I don't know. It's a different art form. It honestly is. And yeah, and it's not something that's taught anymore. So sometimes I'm like, sometimes I think, and again, this is coming from the guy, how dare him, who made television and went to radio. But I'm not sure that always works with everybody. A lot of them it is working, but it doesn't always.
I think it goes the other way. I think it goes the other way as well, because from working in radio, I was a do nothing talkback host in the middle of the night.
Yep.
And having television people come in and being talkback hosts, or having journalists come in and being talkback hosts.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Kind of going, it's a different skill set. So I get it. I get it from the other side as well, that it's not the same. Like, just because you're a journalist doesn't mean you're a good talkback host. It's a different skill set. Especially because you're a television person.
You've got a profile, right? So people know you. That doesn't mean you'll be great on radio. So I get and I hear and see that. And I struggled for a long time there as well. I had good people around me, like my beautiful sister from another Mr. Lana Searle. She was amazing. She took me to say, hey, look, you should do this, more of that. Be aware that's a visual thing. And I was like, wow, I just did not know that. So they are two very separate things. I don't know why we're mixing them as much.
Yeah.
Because I don't think everyone on television makes good radio, and I certainly don't think everyone on radio makes good television. So I think sometimes they deserve their own lanes, and we could potentially stick to a bit more of that. But because of cost cutting and the same reason we network, we just do them all as one. And you're like, I don't know about that. Look, having said that, there are some wonderful comedians coming through. What I love is that, like, we're now accepting New Zealand comedy, right? We didn't used to many years ago.
Definitely.
We just didn't. And now we do. And it's just brilliant. So I love that. And so when I see someone like Di do it, Di him is such a man of the people. Like, when you see him on Family Feud and those shows, he's really good at talking to everyday people. He makes everyone feel important. I just love, he's got a big heart.
Yep.
And do you know what? That's what I love when I see it in presenters. And I hate when I see it lacking, as I go, yep, you said that absolutely right. Yep, just like we practiced. It's just that there's no heart. And maybe since we practiced it, and now that we're live, maybe it's got a different vibe. Maybe those words don't make as much sense as they did an hour ago in the final dress rehearsal. So Di is someone who I think has great heart, obviously a fantastic comedian, but that's what I love seeing in people, heart and humor. So anyone brings that just gets the Jason Gunn tick of approval. Not that they need it, but that's just me watching. Yeah.
I do have one last question for you, if it's okay, only because you brought it up, because you just said I'm not done with it yet. So I'll tell you what I've got a show that I want to host. I'll tell you what it is shortly. I'm sure it's been taken already, but I'll tell you what it is, because it's my favorite show in the world at the moment. If you're not done yet, and we were talking about television presenting, what is there to happen? What is there to come for Mr. Jason Gunn?
Again, I think it might come back to some show where I'm meeting people. Part of me can see me in a camper van traveling New Zealand, just like telling stories that have not been told before.
Yeah,
and just hilarious stories and sad stories, like heartfelt stories, but all New Zealand stories, all stories that make you think, God damn, how lucky are we to live here, right? But it all comes back to people sharing their stories, sharing their experiences, me taking you by the hand as a viewer and going, come with me. I want to show you an amazing place, right? Come with me. I want to share this person's story with you. And because I'm not an influencer, maybe at the end of the show, I'll give you a chance to win a trip to come here. Just saying. So there's potentially something like that. The other thing is my son Louis and I are quite like we're quite competitive, right?
Yeah.
And there's that guy. What's his name? Is it Bradley? The guy from The Chase? Is it Bradley Walsh?
Yes. Correct.
He does a show with his son where they go.
Yes, yeah. I know it.
And part of me thinks, and I look at our daughters, Eve, Grace, and Faith, and they're all, well, Eve and Grace are both, they're both actresses and writers and directors. Faith is so funny. Part of me would sort of like to go, and I am a dad who always gets it wrong. Like, I'm like that. Hey, is that broken? We should get someone in to fix that. Dad, could you? No, I know I could not. No. But you know what? I'll give it a try. Fast forward an hour later. Yeah, we should have got someone in, Dad. So
and
that
now it's
is
twice as much.
And now it's twice as bad. So there's something in that. Like, I just think sometimes about again, it couldn't be about us. It would be about us having to go and meet people. And so I think that is going to be at the crux of it. I'd like to do some scripted comedy with my children. Like Eve and Grace have made a couple of shows, and they made Good Grief, which is about two sisters who own a funeral home. It's on TVNZ On Demand. It's very dark humor, and it's just brilliant, and I'm so proud of them. I'd love to do more, and I've done a couple of scripted comedies recently, like Talk Back with Jason Hoyts. I've done a couple of wee things which are a bit risque and naughty.
That's
and
really
it's
good.
Like, oh, thank you, but I loved it.
Yeah.
You get to play a darker version of you, a bit like, oh, hello. So I'd like to definitely do more of that sort of thing. And I'd love to do something which certainly enables other New Zealanders to shine and tell their stories. And I'd also like to make a film one day. Film has always been, more than radio, more than television, film's always been my favorite medium. So
all right. I'm not pitching this to you, but production house might pick this up one day and might go for it. It's actually already been produced by Amazon all around the world. What I would, if I could wave a magic wand right now, it would be to host the new series, a New Zealand series of Last One Laughing. Have you seen this? Last One Laughing?
No.
It is the greatest. Very rarely do we laugh out loud when watching things on TV as people individually sitting by ourselves. Laughter often, a comedian will tell you, is a group thing. But what this is, quite simply, and they've done several of them around the world. I saw the one with Rebel Wilson. There's an Australian version, and they get 6 to 10 comedians together for 8 hours, and they're not allowed to laugh. And if they laugh, they get booted out of the room, and it is fucking hilarious because they all know each other, and then they torture each other in this competition to try and make each other laugh. And I want to host that. I want that more than anything else right now. I want there to be an LOL NZ, and I want to be the host of it. That's what I want to do.
That would be great. And you look at the way I've been fortunate enough to see people like Di Hemwood and Jeremy. I've worked with them a lot, and I love it when you see them together and the shit they give each other.
Exactly.
it's just, and it's this, a lot of the stuff is, as always, is the stuff off screen you don't get to see because sadly they are involved in a formatted show, which means we haven't got time for that now, but so it'll be about capturing that best stuff and putting on that show there. Absolutely. The other thing I would say is, see, you've opened a can of worms now, is it's really weird with New Zealand's Got Talent, because if there's one show that I thought could have kept going, but they just got, judges weren't right. They got lots of things wrong there. I thought that is a show where, the thing is, talent shows are as old as old, right? They're as old as old. We don't need to buy a format like Britain's Got Talent. Like, I was in talent shows in the mall as a kid. No one owns talent shows. So stop going to buy formats and just let's have our own version where New Zealanders can shine. I don't know. Sometimes we just buy other people's formats and it doesn't quite work. But that's because we're not quite American. We're not quite British. We're all New Zealand.
Yes.
So we need to make something which resonates true New Zealanders,
Yeah. Yeah, very much, Jace. Hey, look, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I do want a bit of a critique. I want a bit of a critique from you with your easily said cap on. And the critique is based on one question. Should I use this image as my thumbnail for this episode? That's my one question.
I would, because it's I really enjoyed making that. I really enjoyed that video I made. And I am, because you know why? I'm interested. I see that and I'm like, I'm interested.
Okay.
I think potentially you should.
So I should use that thumbnail as you as Chris Martin as an exploding human being as the thumbnail for this episode.
Well, just a heads up for those people watching /listening /watching. It's that idea that, hang on a minute, I saw this photo of Chris Martin, and that is a legit photo of Chris Martin playing the guitar. Obviously, just caught in a moment where he's whipped his head round, and the face has moved, but the mouth hasn't yet, so they're not completely in sync. And so I thought, well, I'll give that a crack. So I've dressed in a similar blue T-shirt. I've grabbed a guitar, and my son-in-law has thrown a leaf blower at my mouth. And I actually believe we've captured it quite well.
For people who are actually watching, we can probably just do this and do a little bit of the background. We don't have the audio there. And while it plays, we can
I mean, look, it's
a cracker of a video.
I actually think that wasn't too bad. That's me at a time also in my life when I was trying to disguise my grey hairs.
Yeah, so I did it too.
Yeah.
I've got someone who likes playing with chemicals in the weekend, so every now and again they get to run through the beard, and I'm like, okay, go for it. If you want to have a play, it's all good.
I would go with that because seriously, and that's my son Louis when he was a lot younger. He's 19 now. So go with that. Go with that thumbnail because I think people will be intrigued. They'll go, is that Chris Martin and an even uglier Jason Gunn? I need to listen to this.
That's a spectacular photo.
I like
Jason Gunn, you are a gentleman and a scholar, and it's been such a lot of fun talking to you. The most important thing from this conversation today is all the best to you and your wife. And I hope it all goes well. And I mean, in good hands, we have a great medical system. I'm sure she'll be fine. It'll all be good. Yes. All the best to you and your whānau, who I'm sure are worried, even though things are okay. So that's important that if nothing else from this conversation, that we'll be thinking about you guys as recovery happens. But other than that, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you, mate. Look, and I'm sorry it's taken so long to chat. And damn it, we'll chat again. I look forward to seeing that show with you hosting. I mean, I don't know anyone currently who could make it happen, but when I find them, I'll tell them that you are the host. I'll just leave you with this too. And I did post this the other day, but it's my mantra at the moment. Like, I go to visit Janine in hospital and, you do meet some people and some stories, and they're not all good. There's some pretty sad stories in there. So I get to leave every night and drive home and think about, God, I'm just so grateful. So my mantra to everyone is, I know we're all dealing with shit, right? Particularly at the moment. And my heart goes out to you because from a business point of view and a family point of view, you'd never had more stress in your life. But if you are driving past the hospital and you're not driving into it, you have won.
Yeah.
You have won. Like I used to say to my kids, just pick a window, and somewhere in one of those windows up there, someone's got some bigger shit going on. So, it's not a bad thing. So I'm being very reminded of this at the moment, visiting my wife who is recovering in hospital. But, it's like when we go to a funeral, right? And we go, right, wow, that's, that makes you think, doesn't it? And then 2 weeks later, back to the same old shit. So just, look, hey, if wherever you are now listening to this, next time you're in the car, just take a trip past the hospital and have a look up at one of those windows and go, yeah, no, that's right. I get to drive past the hospital. Jason's right. I am winning.
It's true. I used to think about it. It's like the going through the gates at the airline, because so often or not, we're dropping people at the airport.
Yes.
And then they walk through the gates and then you drive home. And you go, I wonder what they're doing now. But occasionally you walk through the gates and you go,
that's so good, mate.
So this is what I was wondering what they were doing. I'm doing it now, and this is what and they're driving home, and I'm like, this is what they were doing when I was driving home, and you're in that situation. And all of those of us who have done that, my mum passed away in 2018 in hospital, so I was that person sitting in the hospital. We all experience it, and it brings empathy. And I love the idea of when you're not. If you're driving past, you're not in there. It's a win for today, and let's hope it continues tomorrow.
And I'll finish with this because I said that was the end and it's not. Lovely to chat with you, mate. And I hope you are reminded you're a very, very classy broadcaster. You tell great stories. No, you are. You paint great stories. You tell great stories and you paint great pictures. And when I hear you talk, and just even what you did that with the airport there, I think, look, what we need more of you, mate. So look, we do. So when I think, what am I doing? As long as I can hear you doing what you're doing, I'm more than happy, mate. I remember I met you in Dunedin in a studio. I was doing I think might have been a More FM show out of Dunedin.
Yeah.
And you were across the way, and I managed to hear a bit of your show, and I thought, yeah, this is good. This is good. Hey, radio's in good hands. So let it be radio, a very funny television show, or this show. Mate, keep up what you're doing, mate, because it's really good. It's really good.
And I felt very welcomed and safe in this conversation with you today, primarily because you are still wearing a fucking seatbelt. And I thought, well, it's a really interesting when you're parked up and you've got your seatbelt on. So I felt very safe this whole time, like nothing was going to go wrong.
At any time, we've suggested this, at any time I could be shunted. And if that happens, I want to know I'll be shunted. I'll hit some sort of, but I'll be able to continue the interview. So I want to thank you. I'm not going to lie to you now. I'm also going to open the door because
it's hot.
Mother of God.
I've seen you crack that a few times. Yeah. All right. Exit. This is quite literally exit stage right. And I'll say thanks, Jace, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure and all the best, my friend.
All the best to you. Thanks for what you, man. Really appreciate it.